From WREL News and the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, this is your Coronavirus North Carolina News Brief for Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. I'm Cliff Baumgartner. Here's the latest from WREL.com. Students applying to any school in the University of North Carolina system next year won't have to submit a standardized test score. Today, the UNC Board of Governors voted to suspend the requirement for 1 year because of the coronavirus pandemic. Standardized testing has been hard to come by since the pandemic started, as a lot of test dates have been canceled. Some Board of Governors members said students who have taken an SAT or ACT should have those scores accepted and considered as part of their application. Those who couldn't take one could submit a waiver request. But admission to some UNC campuses is fiercely competitive, and North Carolina State University Chancellor Randy Woodson told board members that removing the standardized test requirement entirely would take some pressure off already stressed families who don't want their students to be at a competitive disadvantage. Separately, the board voted to bar UNC campuses from refunding fees or part of tuition if classes have to go online in the coming year because of the virus. Critics of the idea said it will put the UNC system at a competitive disadvantage. Many other universities are cutting prices if students are online only. UNC spokesman Josh Ellis said campuses would have to consult with the Board of Governors and incoming UNC President Peter Hans before halting in-person classes unless the local county health director ordered the campus to close. Ellis also said there's been no discussion on pushing back the August 10th start date for the fall semester. On a related note, a research team from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill released findings today about how the coronavirus has had a disproportionate impact across the state. One of the findings was that school districts in areas where COVID-19 cases per 100,000 were highest were the least prepared to support student needs. The team determined school resources based on the number of staff available, particularly student support staff. They looked at how many nurses, guidance counselors, and psychologists were at each school in proportion to the number of students. National guidance recommends that schools have one nurse for every 750 students. But according to researchers, school districts across the state failed to meet nationally recommended ratios for school support personnel. The school districts least prepared by this standard were Forsyth County, Wayne County, Johnston County, and Duplin County schools. The research team stated that should students return in the next school year, they will have, quote, unique physical, mental, and behavior health needs. The team was unable to conclude how students have been impacted in terms of achievement. And lastly, just days before the end of an enhanced unemployment benefit, the nation got another dose of bad economic news today. The number of laid-off workers seeking jobless benefits last week rose for the first time since late March, intensifying concerns the resurgent coronavirus is stalling or even reversing economic recovery. An extra $600 in weekly unemployment benefits provided by the federal government on top of whatever assistance states provide is set to expire at the end of this week. It's the last major source of economic help from the $2 trillion relief package that Congress approved in March. A small business lending program and one-time $1,200 payment have largely run their course. Without the extra aid, nearly 30 million unemployed people could struggle to pay rent, utilities, or other bills, and economists worry that overall consumer spending will drop, adding another economic blow. More than 1.4 million people applied for jobless benefits last week, the Labor Department said today, up from 1.3 million the previous week. That is the first increase since March 18th and the 18th straight week that it has topped 1 million. Before the pandemic, applications had never exceeded 700,000. An additional 975,000 applied for aid under a separate program that has made self-employed and gig workers eligible for the first time. The weakening of the labor market has raised fears the economy will shed jobs again in July, after two sharp hiring gains in May and June. Congress is negotiating another aid package that could extend the extra unemployment aid, though likely at less than $600. On Thursday, Senate Republicans unveiled a $1 trillion relief package that would replace the $600 with an amount that would bring a laid-off worker's jobless benefits to 70% of their previous income. Both parties have agreed on another $1,200 stimulus check. Democrats in the House approved a $3.5 trillion package last month that would extend the $600 through January. Given the limited time available, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin proposed today that a bill dealing with jobless benefits and aid to schools be considered next week. This has been your Coronavirus North Carolina News Brief for Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. As always, if you like the information you get from this show, let us know. Leave a rating and review wherever it is you listen. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our new episodes. Thanks for listening.